Hey there, welcome to Module 4, where we're talking about welcome sequences. So that's what we're going to be chatting about here in these lessons. And this, like I said in the introductory video, is a very important part of your overall email marketing journey because it is really kind of where you're making the shift and getting people into your world. So let's dive in quickly. So here in lesson 1, we're talking about the purpose of the welcome sequence because I believe that we need to know why we're doing things to really kind of get the most out of it. So that's what we're talking about here in lesson 1 of the welcome sequence module. So what you'll learn in this lesson is the role your welcome sequence plays in the overall email journey, what you want to achieve with your welcome sequence, and what subscribers should know and decide while they're going through the welcome email. So that's kind of what we're talking about in a large, writ large here in this lesson. Let's start by reviewing where the welcome sequence fits into the overall email journey for your subscribers. Now, again, you know this map well by now, but your welcome sequence comes after the nurture sequence, but before the weekly emails. So, in other words, at the point that they're going to go into your welcome sequence, at most, they've received a catch email and a nurture sequence. Now, a question that came up in the group when we were first kind of creating this course was, what if I'm not doing a nurture sequence? So there will sometimes be situations where you will skip the nurture sequence. So at that point, think about some people will land in your welcome sequence after only having received your catch email. So I want you to think about that as you're thinking about what you need to accomplish in your welcome sequence. Because look, there is a lot going on in our business, and dropping people into your weekly emails will leave them confused. If you think about it, if someone went straight from a nurture sequence, which was a short thing about your freebie, so all they've gotten is a little bit of, the encouragement from the catch email and your nurture sequence, which probably just unpacked the freebie, or maybe tried to sell them into a product, and then all of a sudden they're going to go into your weekly emails. They don't really know who you are, what you stand for, or so many other things about your business. Well, your welcome sequence serves as a bit of an orientation into your world. And I like to think of it as an orientation. Think about it like if you were going to go to college, you would go to an orientation where they kind of show you around and they tell you, hey, here's where this building is, here's where that is, and here's how this is going to work, here's how you're going to get your classes. It's kind of like that, but for your business. That's what you're doing with your welcome sequence. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to help your audience to get to know a few things that they need to know and to make a couple of important decisions. Those are the things that kind of your overall goal is with your welcome sequence. So let's dive into what those are. First, you want to help them get to know certain things about your business, about you, etc. Now remember, when a subscriber enters your welcome sequence, they don't really know much about you except your freebie. So they've gotten your catch email, they've probably gotten a nurture. They may or may not have even looked at your freebie at this point. Let's just be honest. Some will have, some won't. But so they are new to you. So one goal of your welcome sequence is to change that. You want to broaden what they know about you. But here's a note of caution we have to talk about here. Your welcome sequence may seem to be about you, but it's really about them. So I want you to keep that in mind, that even when I'm talking about you telling personal stories and things being about you, you always want it to be relatable and really be about them. And you're going to be very strategic and intentional about this in your welcome sequence so that you're very clear that what you're doing is helping them get to know you in a way that serves them. So keep that in mind as a caution point. So let's talk about kind of, some big things that they need to get to know about you. First, Who are you? I mean, literally, they need to know who you are. Now, we'll talk about this in, future lessons about kind of how you do this and what kind of stories you tell, etc. But the goal is to kind of tell a story about you, about who you are, how you got to be where you are, that resonates with them. So again, part of this literally is going to be to actually tell a story about you that will really give them a good sense of who you are, kind of in the sense of this business that you're running. So it's not, for example, I'm married, I've got a kid. It's not that, unless that's relevant. It's about who you are in the moment that resonates with them. And again, we'll get into that in a future email or in a future lesson. In the next lesson, we'll talk about what that kind of story is. So that's the first thing. Who are you? But they also need to know what you stand for. And again, we'll talk about this in lesson 2 about really kind of how we do this specifically, but every business should have core values, things they believe in, things they stand for. And part of your welcome sequence is making sure that your audience knows those things. Now, when you share your core beliefs with your audience, it really helps to connect with them on a deeper level. I mean, it connects you with your audience in a very kind of strategic and deep way, because if they believe in those same core values, if they can get behind your cause, it allows them to really become fans for life in a very real way. So again, we'll talk about this in the next lesson about how to do this. If you haven't created core values or core beliefs, we'll talk about that as well, but it's an important part of your welcome sequence. And then kind of the next thing is, how can you help them? People should come out of your welcome sequence having a sense of how it is that you can help them. And we'll talk about this, both free and paid. But this is the key to turn leads into buyers. I can't tell you, for a long time, I would have people who didn't even realize that I sold individual legal templates. They maybe went through a launch of my template library and like, well, I don't need all of those. I only need 1 or 2. Well, that was a mistake. Before I got good at this email marketing thing, I had not conveyed what it was and how I could help them. And that was a failure. And if your audience, if you're having things like that happen where there's this disconnect, it's a sign that you haven't given them the right welcome sequence. So again, we're going to do that in this sequence as well. So those are the things they need to know, but you also want to help your audience to decide. You want to help them make some important decisions. So again, there are a couple of really important decisions that you would ideally like a new subscriber to make during your welcome sequence, not after. 1, do they buy into your approach and your beliefs? Because if a buyer doesn't buy into your key beliefs about what you do, then they're never going to embrace you, your product, your services, etc. To kind of bring this home, if someone doesn't buy into the power of email marketing, they're never going to embrace my approach to online business. And if that's the case, why would I want to have them as part of my world? Again, there's nothing wrong with them being part of my world, but I might as well give them a chance to make that decision early on. See, your welcome sequence needs to give subscribers the chance to accept or reject your core approach and beliefs. And what I want you to think about is, if you do this in your welcome sequence, when it comes time to sell to your email market or your email audience, you don't have to sell them on the concept that whatever you teach, your vehicle, as it's called, is the way to go. You simply have to help them realize that now is the time. So in a sense, you might as well separate the wheat from the chaff right now and just be done with it. And part of that is done through your welcome sequence. So that's the first decision you want people to make. But also just the general statement, do they want to stay or do they want to go? One of the most powerful things your welcome sequence can do is get people to unsubscribe right at the beginning if you are not for them. And this could be because of style. This could be because, they don't like someone who is as personal about email. They don't like someone, in my case, for example, who curses a bit. All of those things, I would rather they make that decision right up front during the welcome sequence. And what you'll see is that when you use a powerful welcome sequence that does this, your open rates, your unsubscribe rates, your spam complaints on your weekly emails will go down because you've already gotten people to say, nope, this person's not for me. I'm gone right at the beginning. So you want people on your list, you don't want people on your list who don't like your style, your approach, and your beliefs. So you might as well get them off early. And your welcome sequence, that's one of the purposes, one of the things you want to achieve with your welcome sequence. So those are the two things you want them to decide. Do they buy into your beliefs, and do they want to stay, or do they want to go? So the key lesson takeaway here is that your welcome sequence is about getting subscribers integrated into your world. You want them to be oriented and know who you are, how you can serve them, what you believe in, and then to make those decisions. And if you've done that, if they come out of your welcome sequence with that and with really kind of understanding those things, you have succeeded. So that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to kind of dive into talking about the emails that you'll want to include in your welcome sequence and how to help subscribers get to know you and your world. And then also kind of through that, how to help them make decisions, those key decisions we talked about. So I'll see you in the next lesson.